Hello, everybody. Welcome to this discussion. And today I'm very glad to have Janice with us. And Janice Linden-Reed has been involved with the Agile community since 2007. And for 10 years, Janice has created and managed programs for Kanban University, including classes, certifications, events, and publications. Her work connected the top Kanban coaches and trainers around the world for the ongoing development of the Kanban method. Welcome to this discussion, Janice.
Thank you, Nupur. It's great to be here.
Yeah, Janice, so you have been well known in the field of Kanban and change management, and the world has seen a lot of changes in last 1.5 years with the coronavirus outbreak. So what do you think that people can sail through change management during the coronavirus outbreak?
Well, I think one of the things that was the most challenging for people was that so many people were remote, and whether it's Kanban or any sort of management method involving coaching, it becomes a little more challenging. You're trying to encourage a team to work together, but you're all remote. So that's one of the things that's been, I believe, has been a challenge for everyone. And I think the visual management has helped, and we're so lucky to have so many good visual management tools that people can use from anywhere.
Yeah, true that, Janice. And Janice, when we are talking about change, we need to talk about the impact of change as well. So, do you think it is important to measure the impact of change upon sales, profit, or productivity of a team or an organization? And if yes, if it is important, how can we measure the impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can measure the impact, then that's great. But I believe that everything we do is change, right? Every time we do anything in our organization, you could consider that to be a change initiative. So if it's anything new. So I would say that the overall sales, profit, productivity, all of that reflects the quality of the change initiatives. So while it's great to be able to measure the effect of a change, such as when you run an experiment, I think you also could just say if the company is doing well, then the change initiatives are probably doing well. If the company is struggling in a certain area, then you could look at the change management in that area. So I think it's really that closely linked.
Yeah. And if we talk about your experiences, Janice, as I've said in the beginning of this discussion, you're well known for Kanban implementation and classes and certifications. So, what are the greatest challenges in your career that you have seen for Kanban implementation? Because that's something widely adapted for change management.
Yeah, one of the great challenges you run into with Kanban is that it's a system based on evolutionary change. And so evolutionary change is slow by definition, right? So a lot of times managers want, they want to know the answer now, and they want to know, well, where are we going to be? What's exactly going to happen? And with Kanban, what you do is you look at a specific pain point, and then you try to address that, and then you just sort of see what happens, and you evolve the system accordingly. And so that can be a challenge, and there are situations where organizations will just give up on Kanban for that reason, because they just don't have the patience. And when in reality, it's actually a more accurate and humane way of working than trying to pick a goal that realistically you may not make at all, but people have this false sense of security. And then the other thing is dealing with senior management, that's a very common issue with Kanban initiatives. Not that it should be, but for Kanban to work well, you need to be able to have a collaborative relationship with your customers. And a lot of times your customers are going to be internal. So you need to be able to have almost like negotiations with them about things like SLAs and all of that. So it doesn't really work well in an environment where you have a customer just sort of telling you what to do and you go and do it. It should be a two-way discussion. So that's another thing that's could very well go wrong. And then lastly, it's that just lack of understanding of what Kanban is. There's still, after all these years, there's still a lot of confusion and misinformation out there. And it's hard to get everyone on the same page, especially when they're coming into it with a belief that they do know what it is, when in fact maybe their understanding is wrong. So there's a number of things that can be issues.
Yeah, so since you have mentioned about lack of correct information about what Kanban is, have you ever come across any misconception about Kanban and you thought, oh my God, this is not what it does?
Yeah, I mean, I do run into that all the time, and I'd say the most of what I see comes from people who are coming from another management method, and they are trying to make Kanban fit with that. They're trying, or at least they're trying to fit it into their understanding, rather than seeing Kanban as, something where you need to understand concepts that are mainly from Lean. One thing I commonly see are people who are coming from something like Scrum, and they will say, well, I have some type of work that's not fitting well with Scrum, so I'll just do the same thing, but I'll do it with Kanban. And then they don't understand why that's not really working, or it's working, but it's in this very kind of limited way. So if they would only embrace Kanban as a way to model the way that they work, then and make it really unique, then it would work a lot better for them. I think that with a system such as Scrum, you have people trying to force their work into the model of Scrum. And so it's actually the opposite of what you would do in a Kanban system, where you're building the system to support the way you naturally work.
Yeah, all right. So this is kind of a risk only, if I may say. And my next question is around the same lines. How do you assess the risk that are associated with the Kanban implementation or any kind of change that you are planning to undergo?
Well, I think to assess the risk, you first need to understand what your expectations should be. And to do that, you need to have some understanding of maturity of the group, the organization, the team that is using it. So that will tell you what is the best you can hope for. And if it is I deal with a lot of low maturity groups, and for them, it's amazing just to have policies in place and policies that are consistently followed. And Kanban is really good for supporting that, encouraging that, and helping to get you there. And that will move you up in maturity and allow you to achieve more. But if you try to if your expectations are too high based on where on the maturity level, then then yes, there could be. I would say in that case, there's a high risk of something going wrong. But if you have a realistic expectation, then I think you can expect good results.
All right, I think all the challenges start from the expectation. If I can say that.
Yeah, and I know, I know that Kanban University has done a lot of work around a maturity model, and that's why, because it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. You know, there are different people, different groups, and people actually get offended if you say they're low maturity level, and it's not like that. It's not like, oh, you're bad or you're good. It's just where you're at based on what's happened with the development of your organization. And you know, it's just important to say, okay, well, here's where we are and here's where we would like to be, and let's move gradually, let's move to toward improvement.
Yeah, yeah. Coming back to the Kanban implementation, we talk about Tack Time, and I have seen a lot of people who not exactly understand why it is being considered and why it is important. So, can you please tell us from your experiences what it is and why is it important in Kanban and Lean?
Yeah, so Tack Time, first of all, let me say that someone like Alexei Zegloff would be much better qualified to talk about this concept because this is it's getting into a very specific measurement idea. But I can tell you that Tack Time is an expectation of how long something should take. So how long it should take for some work item to travel through the system. And that is a controversial thing in Kanban because well, first of all, it's based on an expectation that may or may not be based on measurement over time. And also it is a manufacturing term that a manufacturing concept. And in manufacturing, they have different goals. They expect everything to be, when you manufacture something, you expect everything to be the same. You want to drive out variability. And whereas in knowledge work, that's not the case at all. So Don Reinertson has written about this at great length, that there's a lot of difference between these manufacturing concepts and in the Kanban method, it is really focused on knowledge work. So Tack Time is not something that we use very often, but having said that, I think it's always good to have targets and it's always good to have goals. And so if you can say, well, this is how long we would like for this to take, then fine, you know, see how that measures up against your actual lead time measurements. And then that should tell you something. And from there you can make, you know, you can make some changes or make some improvements. But I wouldn't hang too much on Tack Time just because you can go just as far or farther just by looking at lead time or cycle time.
All right, so it's not necessary to hold on to Tack Time. We actually need to figure out if it is actually required for what we are doing, right?
Yeah. Although again, it's interesting to understand the expectations of the people in your organization and what they, you know, because those beliefs are going to be there, because they're going to believe that something should take a certain amount of time. You see this a lot in situations where people are estimating and they'll say, oh yeah, well that kind of work, well that should take 2 days. And they maybe aren't considering all the different factors, all the things that are different that week. So you know, but it's going to be there. You know, there's going to be this expectation of how long things should take. So you might as well embrace that to a degree and say, all right, let's put that on the board as well. But try to not hold people to that too much or drive toward an arbitrary goal.
Yeah, true that. Janice, is there any one message that you would like to share with our audience?
I think just that I would really love to see people doing management methods that support the way they work. And I often deal with people who are, I don't know, they feel like they're failing. They feel like there's something wrong because their work isn't fitting into someone else's mold. And I think that you need to realize that you work the way you do for a reason. And I want people to feel good about that and to stop, being miserable really because of the way the way they think they should work. I hope that we can over time change that and get people to be a lot more to respect their own work more in their own situations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this amazing message that you have shared, Janice. And thank you very much for joining this interview discussion. It was amazing to talk about change and managing change with Kanban, Tack Time, and measuring the impact of change. So it was amazing, Janice. I'm sure the audiences are also going to like this whole conversation. Thanks once again.
All right. Thank you, Nupur.